and thank you everyone for joining us for this collective spiritual experience where we're just going to dive right in. We were just talking about the planetary alignment from yesterday with Stephen. So, Stephen, go ahead and let us know how magical that energy felt for you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Diane. I appreciate it. It's really cool to sit down here with all of you. I've had some of you on the show before. I have not had some of you on the show before, but I've been getting to know everybody here for a while, and it's really cool. Thanks for this. Yeah, no, I was just kind of going over, the energetic effect on human consciousness from the planetary alignment yesterday. It seems like all of us here experienced it to one degree or another. I was talking about how I was just watching it truly affect people's behavior. A lot of oddball, weird things were happening yesterday. Ended up getting stuck at work till 8 o'clock last night because of one of those oddball, weird things. But it was interesting to experience. It was interesting to see, kind of just take it all in. And I feel like we are slowly getting the layers of the veil peeled back for us all, for everything that's going on here in this reality at this point in time. Our evolution, the collective evolution, this weird alchemical transmutational process we're all undergoing. So it was very interesting for me, and I hope it was for the rest of you out there as well.
Yes, and that's why I wanted to bring everyone together. I've just been feeling this push, and then you also see the complaints about people talking about the big accounts being corrupt. And I know every one of these accounts here as being people of wonderful truth and heart aligned centered messages. So I thought bringing us together so we could start weaving together our own matrix instead of watching and scared and watching all these other people like weave together things we don't want in our reality. We could start to be conscious creators ourselves and be the ones that weave it together, because we have fantastic information. And maybe we could start off by introducing ourselves to the audience of who we are individually with our channel. So I would like to start. Let's go back to front. So Samantha, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience about yourself? I'm assuming
Oh,
your
it's
real name is Samantha.
a bit better. So it's a bit of a new kind of foray into kind of podcasting. Me and Kirsten, we're going to start our new podcast, The Metaphysical Fat, but we're a little bit technologically challenged, so we're just trying to get all that sorted at the moment. I'm an ex-nurse and I'm a medium, a bit of a poet, a bit of a potty mouth. Just trying to say it how it is, but it's nice to put a face to all of your names, so it's lovely to meet you all.
Yes, you
Nice
too.
to meet
And
you.
yes, and rock that truth. I don't even know your real name, but I've been following you for a while and I love the wisdom you always have to share.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my name is Raquel, and I'm here in Charleston, South Carolina, in America. And yeah, I share a lot on X, and also I started out on TikTok, and then I moved over to X because of my friend Nine, which I'm sure some of y'all might know her account. And I just love going on there and just sharing what comes through and what I find that inspires me and what has light codes in it that might activate something within other people. Because what I'm realizing with all this is we really don't have anything to fear at all. They have what they have the fear in them, like the sketchies.
Yeah,
Like when you shared the Dark Crystal, oh my God, I had never watched it. And I went and watched it and I was like, oh my God, this is reality. We are the Gafflings. Like that's
Yes.
us. And the sketchies just separated themselves from the mystic. And it's like we all have both in us and it just like wants to come back together, but for some reason they want to stay separated, and they're the ones that are in fear right now because of the phoenix, because of the return of us, our ancient wisdom activating within us. So yeah, I just love to share that stuff, and I'm so happy that you shared the Dark Crystal and turned me on to it, so thank you.
Yes. No, I'm glad you loved it because it's nice to not feel like you're not crazy. Like any moment we have to come
Yeah.
together and be like, I think this too. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
thank God. Because I feel like probably, especially here in Canada, like you look around and nobody agrees with you and everybody thinks you're schizophrenic. And it's like, well, online, there is people that agree with me. There's
Everybody does.
growing. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's just
Well,
wonderful.
you're there for a reason, and everybody, we're all placed right where we're supposed to be. And me being here in Charleston, and the Civil War started in Charleston, South Carolina. The shot heard around the world started here. So I believe there is a big portal, Stargate, something here that's really special. And that's why I was born here. So
Amazing. I love it. Yes, that's powerful. That's deeply powerful. And
yeah,
then
it's pretty cool.
The lion. I heard, are you Dave?
David.
Oh,
Yeah.
David.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm a software engineer. I live in Florida, and of course, that's like that's my Matrix job. The rest of the time, I have these little cards that I hand out, and they say Violet Flame, Alchemist, Reality Hacker. I don't really know. I don't really know what to call myself. In 2021, I had pneumonia and I had to go to the hospital. This was during the height of the pandemic, and after I got out, I started to experience a series of profound visions. Some people would consider them like a near-death experience type vision, and my life has been kind of an insane something ever since. So yeah, I work with angels, ETs, various other beings, and I'm currently kind of in a transition. I'm trying to get away from the old Matrix life and into something new. So I've started producing videos. The ones that I'm doing right now consistently are these short form videos that have little sayings from the Ascended Masters, which I didn't mention them, but I've been working with them quite a bit as well. And in particular, Saint Germain is kind of like my patron, or I've kind of come to see him as like kind of like my Jedi master, if you will. Um, and so yeah, I've been releasing these short form videos. I'm kind of hoping it could be the kind of thing where they just get out there in the algorithm and then they just kind of show up in somebody's feed, right when they need it. That's kind of what I'm going for. So hopefully that happens. And then I am thinking about starting up a podcast. Actually, I've been talking about it for a while, but I'm actually speaking with a marketing consultant Monday who specializes in getting people started on this. So I'll see what she has to say. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, something interesting though, because you mentioned like the corruption of the big accounts, and that's something I ran into like today, because I on Twitter or X, I'll get on there and and spam links to my video on X, because it's the only way to get visibility. Otherwise, like, the algorithm won't even show my video, even to people that are following me. And so I'm just like, okay, I'll just paste it. I'll just post it on a bunch of people's tweets, and then they'll see it. And so I did that, like, I don't know, 100 times. and so today I have like a notice on my X feed. Your account has been flagged for spamming. And this is just a warning. But yeah. So I talked to Grok about it, and Grok is like, oh, we're real sorry, but just be more careful in how you space out your postings in the future or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's ridiculous.
Yes. Oh, yes. I've been flagged many times on YouTube for and from Twitter for saying the word fasting. Fasting is illegal to say without getting blocked. Like,
Wow.
it's just insane the things they'll do to try to keep us down, but they're not going to win. They can keep trying, but we'll just keep building up our matrices and make it stronger, and they're just going to get less effective as we get more effective.
Oh yeah. I mean, 6 months ago, I was at the bottom. I was like literally at the bottom, the lowest I've ever been. And coming from that point, I've just started building. I say I'm trying to escape the matrix, but compared to where I was 2 years ago and all points before that. I mean, I kind of have. I have a job, but this job affords me a great deal of autonomy, much more than I've ever had, much more than most people have, and it gives me the time to devote to the other projects that I'm working on and to build my new matrix. So it's been really great, honestly.
Beautiful. That's so key. So key. Next, let's talk to Kirsten and tell us about yourself, how we can find you, and what you have for the world.
All right. Well, I'm Kirsten Mustaine. I live in extreme rural Oklahoma at the edge of the Ozarks in the woods. I'm an energy worker. I am a channel. I'm a tarot card reader, and I'm a yoga instructor. And you can find me on X at Wander Awake. And I do personal sessions and readings. So if anyone's interested, find me on X. And I've had the experience. I used to write long posts on X, and I had large accounts like reword them and post them a few days later. And so I got really frustrated with that. I don't do it anymore because I felt like all of my ideas were being taken and put on larger accounts, and it was extremely frustrating. So that's one of the things I've noticed with that.
Yes, that's a thing in with all humanity. We're little idea creatures. And it's one of those things that even Robin Williams used to say he did by accident because people called him out on it. He was like mortified, like, oh my God, oops. So it's sometimes you don't even know, like they could be doing it for malicious reasons, or you could have just been that good at planting seeds that they actually like embodied it within their own wisdom and then spit it out again in different words. So you never know. It could actually be a giant compliment into the words, because your words are one of the first people I followed on Twitter was you, and your words are great.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then next we have Steven. I feel like most of us know Steven from BG Cast. He is doing fantastic at bringing us all together. So this is really his idea. He just doesn't know it. So let us know about you, Steven, and what you'd like to share.
I can't take all of the credit for it, man. You guys are all excellent, amazing people, and we've all kind of formed this bond over, the past year, however many 2 years. And I learned something from each of you like every day. I can't, say I'm grateful enough for that. But nonetheless, my name is Steve. I am the head of BG Cast. I am the podcast that covers this great awakening live and everything that we're experiencing and we're going through here as a collective. I woke up very young. I was in 2008. I was 20 years old, and it was it was awesome, and it was terrifying, and it was beautiful all at the same time. And I paddled out to the esoteric Marianas Trench on a tiny little life raft with no life jacket, and left my oar in the boat and just dove in head first. And ever since then, I've kind of dedicated my life to, understanding the nature of human consciousness, the nature of the human being itself, this nature of this reality. I am a Kriya Yoga practitioner. I am an alchemist, a spiritual alchemist myself. I work with Hanuman. I've been working with Hanuman, the monkey god, for the past 2 years, to kind of help solidify some of the stuff I've been through. And I'm just really grateful and happy we're doing all of this. As far as some of the stuff that I've experienced personally on X, I've experienced a little bit of everything you guys have too. I have been stonewalled. The biggest thing that I deal with are the bots, like the bots filtering down my posts, and it's like, man, like it's funny because I posted this one, and the astronaut memes where the one astronaut's looking at something and he's like, wait, it's been this so long, and then you got the one with the gun behind him and he's like, always has been. And I posted it and I said, oof, the truth. And it was the first astronaut looking at wait, the universe is just me experiencing myself in its fractaline nature. And then the astronaut's like, always has been. And I posted oof the truth, and I set it up there. And man, the bots are still filtering that down. And the biggest thing I can say to everybody here, I get frustrated about it at times too. Don't get me wrong. We're all human and we all have that side of us. We're like, man, what the hell? Like, what the fuck? Like, and all of that. But, they're just trying to make the waters seem muddier than they are. They are afraid. They cannot stop what is coming. And they are now going to play dirty and use their dirtiest tactics, stealing our content, whether, it be intentional or unintentional, filtering down our posts. And the best thing I think, we can do, as frustrating as it can be, is to just keep pushing, and that's kind of why, I posted that thing earlier about, we can learn from Jesus's story quite a bit, even though I am an omnist, I don't claim any specific spirituality. Jesus was ostracized. He was ridiculed. He was, basically casted out. If you're believing the canonical version of it, his people, I do think he was a Nazarene potentially or something along those lines, but that's something we can dive into later. But, we all deal with that here. And, all of us in our evolution, through spreading our message and spreading our truth, we've all dealt with this ridicule, this ostracization and things like that. So the number one thing I'll say, man, is we just keep pushing. You know how it is.
Yes. Yeah, and that's exactly all you can do. And it's funny because I had a huge breakthrough a year or two ago because I told you before, I used to flip flop, right? It's easy to flip flop. Like I had an awakening when I was late 17. I knew I was God. I knew we were all God. I knew all thoughts could be accessed at all time, which now I know is the Akashic Records. But I knew this conceptually in this experience that was fueled by drugs. But still, it was a whoosh. It was the one and only time I ever did it. And it was not like a drug experience. It was like, wow, like this was it. I was God. We are all God. But I ended up talking myself out of it after, went through a tumultuous early 20s of darkness because this never left me. This fact that I never left. You can't just leave, kick that thought out. You could try to ignore it and stomp it down, but it's still going to be there. And I think in a way we all intuitively know this and why we can go through so much turmoil and pain and self-loathing, because at the end of the day, it is so ultimately up to us that it's scary, alarming, shocking, because we are that actually powerful. And it's why they put so many games and effort and money behind keeping us small, keeping us busy with working and all the things they do. Even when you have children, they want to control that and give so much rules and regulations just behind literally everything to keep us busy, 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 so we don't have time to get into the self, to awaken into what the self is. And that's what I do now. I'm a metaphysical minister, and I just walk through people through transcending ascension. Literally, I used to be called Spirit Mom, which some people still know me as, but because I feel like a spirit mom, I feel like that guiding force. I have that just naturally within me as an entity or part of me. But I wanted people to know what I'm doing, why I'm here. And that was to help people transcend ascension, because it ultimately all comes down to alchemy and alchemizing that darkness in the self, and just coming on board as a sovereign individual. And that's why I love everybody in this group, because everybody here seems to also be trying to spread a self-empowering message versus, and I don't want to get all catty about other accounts, but there's lots of valuable accounts. Nine was a fantastic account. I love her too. She's wonderful. There's so many accounts all of us love, and Circle Within. But then there is overarching accounts that they're clearly pumping narratives, and even people I watched when they were smaller grow and turn, and now their message is shady. And I don't even think it's necessarily that they're contacted by the CIA. I think it's that their egos, they were not prepared for the ego, and their egos, they got to this place of fame, now having 100,000 followers or whatever it is, and now boom, that ego turns on, takes control, because it thinks I am amazing. And now when you turn that ego on and let it run the show, now negative entities are spewing their messages through these people. And even like the CIA cabal powers that be could literally have quantum computers where they are just typing this in and it's shooting into people's brains. Like, it's that complex to what can be coming down to us. And that's why our sovereign power is so important. So I'm happy to have everyone here, and I will let somebody take the floor. Is there a topic? We had so many in our group that we talked about talking about. Where do we want to start it off?
Can I be really rude and start? I just want to mention what you were talking about, the big accounts. I think the issue that I found with X, especially since, you know, our Lord and Savior Elon has taken over it. There's no dryness in my voice there whatsoever, by the way. You know, he's monetized it, and I can see why people would like that. But what it's essentially done is created a division within the community. There's no cohesion anymore. And the big accounts and a lot of other accounts, they're just literally pushing because they want the numbers, basically. And you kind of find that it's almost like a competition now for people. Whereas before it used to really feel like a community, and there was a lot of accounts that go on there and we'd share ideas and it'd be really kind of free flowing. Whereas I feel like we've kind of been put into little almost like little groups. We're in like the ghetto. We're all in the spiritual ghetto, aren't we, really? We've been shoved out there because we say stuff that people don't really want us to say. And I've noticed the more that I've started to speak more outwardly, I mean, I say some pretty ridiculous things, I'll be honest. People that follow me know, like, the things that I say sometimes are absolutely ridiculous, but I do pepper it with some spiritual truths as well. And I can definitely see when I'm saying things that are hitting the nail on the head, they're just not getting out there. My account's literally getting no views. At one point, I was getting like 200 and 300 likes on my posts a couple of years ago. And it was just ridiculous stuff, you know, that I was posting. And now I'm getting like 10. So you really,
what's
and it
happening to
isn't,
me.
yeah.
Same thing. It's like
And
we're
it isn't,
siloed off into a little
yeah,
section on X.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
all the
feel
same
that.
people.
It was easy on my old account to get up to 3,000 followers, and like easy. It was no problem. And then they suspended me for spamming, and yeah, that happened before. And then I started this new account that was like in August, and I get no traffic. Like all the traffic that I got before that got me up to 3,000 followers is gone. So I'm
Yeah, well, and
Yep.
I've been throttled on my followers. No matter how many new people follow me, I'm always right at the same following. And so it's like, oh, 20 people followed you today, and apparently 20 people unfollowed me as well. So, it's like, how does this make
It
sense?
goes backwards.
Yeah.
It's like that. I actually brought that up to X support and they didn't care. I never got a response, and I was like, it got to the point where it was like, because I did it, and I did a hard count because I was bored one day, and I was like, you know what, let's actually just test the waters out here, you know what I mean? And I ended up doing a hard count, and I'm like, so I have like 1,430 even at this point in time, and it's still showing 1390, things like that. So I was like, okay, strange. So I brought it to X support, and I'm still dead silent. It's nothing. It's like every time I like message them back, I'm like, hello, and I'll like put like a little question mark. They're like, your new case number is this, and this, and we'll get back to you in a couple of days. And I'm just like, man, this is just, a lot of it's interesting because, we experience it. We have all this anecdotal evidence based on what we're experiencing. And it's hard to prove, unfortunately, is where it comes down into it sometimes as well. So, but no, I've been experiencing it too. I mean, especially there's a few accounts I've seen too. I've seen what's happened with Kirsten. I've David's account page, like I have to look for sometimes, man. Like I'll have to like jump in and check on you because I haven't seen it in a while. Like, you know what I mean? And see how everything's going.
Yeah, I post almost every day.
Yeah. And what I noticed they'll do too is, I don't know if this is purposeful or not, but this is something I'm just theorizing and I'm going to throw out there. Like they might be keeping track of who's close, and what they'll do is they'll swap the algorithms on us or something like that. And we won't be able to see each other's things anymore. Like I'll be like, I haven't seen Kirsten's posts in a few days. Like, let me, go over there and see what's going on with her, same thing with David's page and all of that. And, I one of the biggest things I think we can do as far as like a solution at this point in time is just to, constantly engage with each other as much as possible. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, share, repost. I know we all have busy lives and things like that, but like whenever we can get the chance, like engage with each other, because that's is eventually what's gonna help us, get out of this and support everyone here. And it's just wild, like I've started to really notice them getting just real dirty. And like I've said things about it before too. And it's like, man, you're gonna send like 40 bots to like this post, and it's or there's another
It's
account.
so
I'm not gonna
annoying.
name her name, but it's funny because I definitely know she's taken stuff from all of us here. And as far as like some of the message goes, our message at least. And she gets off the wall engagement. Like, she's at, I think right now, almost like 80,000 followers. So it's interesting, guys. And, I just, I don't get disheartened anymore. I've kind of like released my attachment to it at this point, I guess. Like, I've just kind of been like, you know what? I would rather have my community, you know what I mean? Like people like you guys. And, I would rather have, quality individuals in my life and in my circle, as opposed to like the lot of it all. So, and I think, that's powerful enough for all of us. And I mean, yeah, it would be cool, don't get me wrong, for, I guess you could say, all of us to, for this kind of community to get slightly mainstream, slightly, but I don't know if, it would ever, we'll see if it happens. This would be, I
Well,
guess.
that's why we come together. That's why I think
Yeah.
coming together
Yeah.
will help
Yeah.
amplify the energy, literally.
Yeah, I agree.
I
And
agree.
the other thing I wanted to say was Sam and I have had this experience. We're starting our podcast, and we started out doing spaces on X. And first of all, I got banned completely from doing spaces. So we opened up the metaphysical for, I don't know why. I have no idea. But it says I'm not allowed to do spaces if I do it from my account. So we opened up the metaphysical fat account, and we started doing it from there. And I get kicked off of there every probably 10 minutes when we do spaces now. It just kicks me off. It'll either change me to listener, or I won't be able to hear what anyone is saying, and I have to constantly come out and rejoin. And Sam and I sort of decided that it might be the frequency that happens when we join our energies together, that they may have even set it so that if a certain frequency starts getting broadcast, it kicks it out, because we don't seem to be able to go for more than 10 minutes without getting interrupted.
No, and we get quite a lot of there's like the useful, I say this in the most loving way possible, but there's useful idiots as well. And as soon as they come on, you can feel the vibe drop. Not to be all like voodoo doll or whatever, but it is literally, you can feel it. You're like, oh my God, what's that? And you can feel them as soon as they come in. They completely change the landscape of the space. And it's quite, when you're energetically sensitive, you can really tell that, they're coming into the disruptors, basically.
Yes, and I'm not sure if they're purposely doing it or if they're just, being subconsciously maneuvered into doing it.
Well,
and it doesn't really matter.
It really doesn't matter, like, as far as that goes, because you have both. You have people who are doing it consciously, and you have people who are programmed to do it. And either way, they're still doing it on behalf of their masters.
I think they're holding us back, y'all. I think that our time is kind of being like pushed back a little bit. Like they're like, no, you guys got to stay back a little bit. Like we want these other pieces to play out before our piece comes in. And I've gotten a couple confirmations on that. And I hate to like say that because I feel like it's an excuse and I don't like it. But like, it just seems like they're siloing us. Like they're pushing us off to the side. They won't let our voices be heard yet, or our posts be seen, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Like the people aren't ready.
Raquel.
Yeah.
For what?
I agree with her. The one thing I want to kind of shine in on Raquel's point, that could be a thing too. I've been definitely open to that as well. I mean, there's right now, we've all seen it together. I mean, for a lot of you who've been in this for a while, we always used to think, man, it's going to be really cool when conspiracies are mainstream and all of that. We used to have that mentality back then, like back in 2016.
It's still better. It's better. It's
The
better.
20
They're
it
using the
is.
word more and more.
It is, but I guess there's something. I've always used this saying, whomever or whatever's hands this in has the entire collective of humanity in its mind. It doesn't just have people like us. And that's why I feel in some ways, Raquel could have a point. There could be like, hey, look, like we want to gradually rip the 4-foot splinter out of the population. We don't want to rip it all out at once, because if we rip it all out at once, it could be bad. And this is not the first time I've heard it too. There's another guy, Veridis. I know he follows a few of you guys too. He even said he had communication where it's like the awakening has to happen at a certain pace, because if it does happen in too fast of a way, it could cause chaos. And like, I debate with that on my own. I'm like, is that just something they're trying to say to freaking, be like, hey, like, we want to stifle you, or could this be just, could that be the case? And I mean, when you kind of take a look at, collective humanity at this time, and everything, how it's all operating, you can in some ways see how that might be the case. So, especially when it comes to certain things. I mean, especially if people do find out there really is a true spiritual divine nature to this reality, which we all know, that all of a sudden means now they have to take accountability for themselves. Now they have to, there's a lot of accountability that comes into play with that. So, that can be for the average person a pretty scary thing, unfortunately. So I just wanted to chime in on Raquel's point, because I've heard that also a few times as well, that, there will be a time where we do get pushed out. But, I'm still kind of feeling that one out. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I'm tired.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
No,
So there is something to that.
I do think there's something to that.
I think it's true, and I think it goes to, I think it was Samantha or you, Kirsten, that said that when people come online, you can sense when they have negative energy. And sometimes that's accidental too, because I've been preaching to people or talking to people, working with people, and we'll be getting along best friends one day, but then I'll push them too far with where they need to look at themselves, and I quickly become the enemy. You don't understand me, or whatever it is. And I have felt this doing lives. When I like to go live randomly or whenever, and it'll be going good. I'll be on a good stream, and then all of a sudden something happens, and I just feel like like the energy's gone, and I'm like, I almost want to be like, whoever just came in, please leave. Like, and I know that's mean, and I don't know why they're there, but like they'll almost just ruin it for me, and I'll kind of wrap it up at that point, because like the energy will just be gone, and it's like we're hitting a block, I think. And I think a lot of the sickness with the world, I honestly think COVID was because of this, because the energies were increasing, especially for the mass scale that it got. So you could say like planned thing, but the mass scale that it got would have required agreement. Like you have to agree. And I think it's the energies were increasing, because they've been increasing en masse since 2012. And it just got too much. And humanity in general, well, for one, they needed to be off work to have introspection so they could start to integrate what was happening. And two, they were having mass resistance to what was happening and getting sick. That's why COVID symptoms are all over the place. And it's a Buddhist philosophy that shedding things like mucus is shedding darkness. So having a sickness where you're filled with fluid and mucus, it sounds like alchemy to me. Like, so we went through this to help the darkness shed and people's blocks and all this. So it's just a perpetuating circle of finding all these blocks of what we're pre-programmed with and getting rid of it.
So,
I agree with that. Very much.
I so agree with that too.
I agree as well. Yeah.
And I was also thinking, think about, I don't know if you've ever, when I was younger, it was very common to do acid and mushrooms with people. And if you've ever seen someone take an acid trip or a mushroom trip and they're not ready for that, it's a disaster. And if you think about applying that to the entire population, you know,
Oh my
it
goodness.
Oh
would be,
boy. Well, when you put it that way,
Yes, it's
uh,
true. My husband's a nurse, and I've always been pro cannabis, and he's like, oh, it causes schizophrenia, to which I will snap out on him because you know how I feel about cannabis. And then he's like, he's showing me the statistics going, look, see, they've increased because it's legal here now. Like it's legally allowed. And I'm like, Pat, sorry to say his name. I have told you a million times when you go into something a psychedelic, you are going to go into a shamanic spiritual experience. If you are not ready for that, it will produce actual schizophrenia or schizophrenic like symptoms because, again, it's a byproduct of that darkness hitting. So, like, these psychedelics are good for us if you're ready. If you're not, it's actually still helping you. And those symptoms are just, if you allowed it to shamanically work themselves out, they would.
I
Yeah.
guess the DMT helicopter spraying DMT on the population is now a bad idea because of all of this. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
no,
I mean, it might be rough for a little bit, but it would probably be great in the end.
I
I mean,
would
that's
agree.
for 10 minutes. It'll be the shortest 10-minute awakening you've ever seen. Everybody will be freaking out, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's great! There's rainbows everywhere."
I think it would be an interesting experience. It would be an interesting experience for sure for that to happen. But no, Kirsten brought up a really good point. You know, when she phrased it that way, you know, as somebody who you know went from being a hardcore psychonaut to being, you know, ceremonial use only now. I have seen people have their, including myself, you know, their share of bad experiences when it comes to, you know, entheogens and psychedelics. So no, that's a really good way of describing it, Kirsten. I think that kind of hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
yeah.
I just want to say as well, we were talking about the darkness and people's vibe. I know one of you, can't remember your name, sorry, he was talking about entity attachments as well. And what I've been finding since the vibrations have been going up, a lot of people have really been kind of having all these attachments, really pushing them because they want to feed. And I've been finding, especially on like open platforms like X, you know, psychic attacks have been really on the increase. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that
Oh,
as well.
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Definitely.
Well, the collective, like a lot of these people, especially right now with like what's happened politically, like a lot of these people are going through their dark night of the souls. Like a lot of
Yeah.
us went through during COVID when we realized it's all an illusion and I've been lied to about everything. They're starting to go through that and they have to go through that. It's almost like deja vu right now. Like a lot of this that's happening, I feel like it's like 2020 again. I don't know if y'all are like feeling into that. Like,
Oh yeah.
and maybe it's because
have-
they're coming online, like they're having their dark nights of the soul and crying and screaming and freaking out and making their videos, which is so good and so healthy. They need to do that because, I mean, I did that. I was like, oh my God, like, what? Like, we got 4 years with this guy. Like, what's going to happen? And, you know, but all of it was good. It like woke me up even deeper into my true essence that I am, my recalibration.
Yeah, it
I-
just gets deeper and deeper. Because like when
Very.
I was already awake when COVID happened, so I was horrible. I was like hee hee hee, because I knew it was going to wake everyone up because it was obvious they were mishandling it. And I'm like, you want to know the number one way to wake up a human is mass take away all of their freedom, because that's
Yeah.
when you push
It's
them to the
brilliant.
box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Well-
consciousness was so
yeah.
stagnant and needed to be shooken up. So they're like, okay, let's just
Mhm.
put a virus on them, coronavirus. Like,
Yes,
I don't
that's
know.
like it's one of those quotes from the Bible, and I'm not a Bible person, but it just says it so clearly, and it's God going, "You meant this for evil, but I'm going to use it for good." So whether or not
Yeah.
the original
Yeah.
plotting behind COVID, it ended up an
Yeah.
overall good thing, and it had that choosing point with the certain medicine they wanted to give us. It was a
Mhm.
choosing point, and
Yeah.
it is what it is, and it showed the universe where we stand.
Well, one of the things
Yes,
I've noticed too was that was almost one of the things I've noticed about a lot of these events, and I know you guys can probably resonate and agree with me. They almost always filter down as a direct kind of corresponding hit to our community. I mean, Raquel was talking about 2020. I had been involved in I like to call it the conscious collective. That's kind of the name I've, coined for all of us at this point in time for 12 years at that point. And COVID drove a wedge in the spiritual community. It divided us even further, because you have people like us who, believe that freedom and bodily autonomy are very spiritual things. These are innate things that we as humans have, not only have the right, but we deserve, and we think these things are beautiful and they're great. And then you had like the other half of the spiritual community that almost fell back into the narrative. Like they ended up, there was a few spiritual podcasters, Jessa Reed being one of them back then, who was really saying, you need to wear the mask. Okay. You need to make people feel safe. And, I would have like retorted to that, like, but yeah, do you know when for anybody who's picked up a book on psychology, when you cater to irrational fears in people, you cause a psychosis within them. And it was a very fine line. I mean, I've noticed it's always takes a hit to our community. It always filters down. It almost seems to be direct, because, it all started with flat Earth. When flat Earth came into the picture, many years ago, not hating on anybody who believes it. That's not what I'm talking about at this point in time. But, that caused a wedge in the spiritual community too. And I mean, at least to this day, nobody can still have a objectively like rational conversation about it. Nobody can have any kind of objective, rational conversation discussing it.
I think people can. I think we're growing into doing that. I think because the information that's coming out is getting so complex that we're starting to see the bigger picture. Because I've gone back and forth. I was never a diehard flat earther, but I learned a bunch of information, like the ones that show us with the black sun underneath, and I felt that. But I also believe in hollow earth, so the two never lined up. But I held on to the flat earth because a teacher at the time, Revival of Wisdom or something, a bunch of you might know him, was teaching it, and it seemed, but he's one of those accounts that went kind of funky when he got famous. So that made me like, okay, well, if you're starting to get, can I really trust the flat earth thing? So I backed off and I let it go, but it's still in my heart as a potential. I'm still open to it. And I think with the way the universe is layered, this would be a great topic to ask everyone. Like, let's just expose ourselves, flat earther or not. Because I know, I think we can get to a point where it's okay to touch on both. Because a lot of the early arguments, the ones that get dogmatic about it, you notice that their information is a little rudimentary. And they're like, oh, well, have you ever seen like the earth turn the curvature? You've never seen the curvature. I'm like, the earth is big enough for that. That's not a point. That doesn't count. To me, anyways. And like that, there's other points that I do think make sense, and there's other validity to be found in it. So I think like whenever someone can't have a conversation with it, and no insults, but that's usually because they're lacking the vocabulary to have a conversation about it. And that's where you know you have dogma.
Well, it's not just that. People, most people have a very strong attachment to their identity, right? And it's not just one identity. It's many identities tied to many things. So if you tell someone that their belief about the shape of the earth is wrong, the average person is going to perceive that as an assault on their character or something. So, I mean, that's just human nature.
True.
So we have to be very upset about that.
Yeah, take it personally, don't you? That's the problem. When you go into a conversation with somebody, I think when you've done a certain amount of work, I'm not saying that I've done loads, but you come to a point where you realise you realistically do not know anything. You can't put your hat on anything. You need to just be open and say, do you know what? It's a possibility. I'll consider it. It either aligns with me now or not, but I'll put it on the shelf. So I don't tell anybody that it's not flat, it's not round, it's not a realm, because it's just consciousness. Everything to me is just consciousness. We're creating it as we go.
That's right. And that's my opinion about the shape of the earth. I think it's the shape of your consciousness. And
that's
so I think
that's so cool.
I
that's
believe that
fine.
it's everything.
Yeah.
Because just like we are multidimensional beings, the earth is also a being,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
also
Absolutely.
multidimensional. And
Mhm.
based on the plane of reality you find yourself on, these are all real things, I promise. Based on the plane of reality you find yourself on, you may be on a flat Earth, or you may be on a round Earth. I believe that um, as you leave the Earth through what we call space, uh, and you move away from it, it probably would appear to be round, but that doesn't mean that it is actually round. That's just what you're seeing, because that's how space works. But
Ooh, that's interesting.
That
I've
is
wondered
interesting.
if you know more about this, I would love you to elaborate, because that's something I'm trying to wrap my head around. It's because also when you go out and then they're showing shots of stuff, you never see stars in the background, but we see stars when we look up, and that just blows my mind. Like, what is
well,
happening?
they say that that's because of the cameras that they used. This is interesting, okay? Because I
But
actually,
my
when I
cell
was
phone camera
working,
picks them up.
well, yeah, that's a very good point. Um, when I was working in big tech, I interviewed somebody for a role once, and he didn't get the job, but he told me a story about his hobby, and he liked to buy like high-end telescopes and take pictures of stars. And he said that in order to take pictures of stars, you needed like a certain type of telescope and you needed a certain type of camera, because most cameras that use film, not digital cameras but actual cameras, they don't pick up the light from stars because it's just too faint. That's what they said. But when you talk about like what NASA's been doing in space, like moon landing and stuff, the best that I've been able to piece together on that, this is going to be controversial too, but there was a moon landing, but we didn't see it. Like what they showed everyone, what they showed the world, was filmed in a soundstage, but they have actually been to the moon, and that's what they found there was reptilians or something. They said don't come back. So I guess that's why they didn't tell us what happened there. I don't know.
Well, to
Yeah.
even kind of
Yeah.
add on to David's point. Oh, sorry. Yeah, but to add on to David's point, like even from a psychology perspective, and there's a couple of other odd things about that too, but no government is going to send their men into uncharted territory, screen it for the country live to see. No government's going to do that, because what if they find something there, and it's live and the whole nation sees it? Then they can't cover it up. They can't freaking, try to stuff it down. You just had 380 million people, just even as an example, see a reptilian being on live television. So that's just kind of adding to David's point. I wanted to throw in there that, it is weird. As far as the whole flat earth thing, the one thing I am going to say that's very interesting about it all, so here in Denver, right, we have a giant plumb bob, right? And for those of you who know what a plumb bob is, it's a very old school leveling device. This is what they used in the days before levels or anything to mark a level point to do something. So, when you take a plumb bob, you hang it and it swings until it reaches its level point. Well, here in Denver, we're on a very rocky mountain plateau, right? We're about a mile above sea level, but this gigantic plumb bob stays level. So that is something that I do think is rather interesting, for sure. I mean, whether or not we could just be on a flat part of the plateau, I don't think so, because I drive these roads all the time. They are very mountainous, they are very hilly. So for this gigantic plumb bob to sit level, in the middle of downtown Denver, is definitely an interesting thing. I'm throwing that out there.
Ooh, that is really interesting. And I have a really cool theory also. What if like the flat earthers and the round earthers are both right? Like, what if our globe is just so much bigger and we're just like a little section on a
Yes.
gigantic
Yes.
big ball? And like, what if we do have a like plasma screen dome above us, kind of keeping us siloed in this little area on a gigantic planet. Because, okay, when people see like Sasquatch and fairies and mermaids and stuff, I think they come in from wormholes and dimensions and like portals underneath us, and they pop in. But because we're kind of pinched off from the true God source ether above us, like we shrunk down, like Honey, we Shrunk the Kids is like disclosure, like we've been shrunken down, and we're not getting our true, ether that we manifest with and like take in and feeds us. Like even our sun kind of gets blocked by it. Like what if everybody's right? Like what if we're just a little section and this dome, this plasma screen is going to come off soon? Because I don't know if y'all have seen Rebel Moon on Netflix, but like with the planets right there, I believe they're right there. Like Saturn and Jupiter are like so close, like the moon. I mean, that's just me personally. Like when I look out there, I'm like, I think they're so close. They're just hidden because of the screen above our heads. I don't know.
I feel that
That's just kind of my
energetically.
theory.
I can see that being true, and they're so involved. They are our personality. Like we're all made up out of these combinations of what our astrology and our human design and our gene keys are, but all of that is astrological, really, just different ways of doing the math. And there's a reason for that. Like these planets are our personalities. Like we're being streamed through them, and that means something deep. And so them being close, them being alive, them being more a part of our lives than we currently realize, definitely sits well.
Raquel,
Like right there.
Have you seen that map of? Because there's a map that describes like what you're talking about, where there's.
I have.
Okay,
I have seen that. And we're like with the ice wall in Antarctica, we're kind of in it. And there's more realms. Because I believe there's so many more realms out there, y'all.
Mhm.
Like I think, and I don't know if y'all are hearing this, but they've been talking a lot about seeding. Okay, they are seeding the consciousness right now with inner civilization. Like Dr. Michael Sala, he did this beautiful talk about a month ago with this Romanian guy in Romania about inner civilization. Like, I mean, Jesus might be down there. Like the ancient wizards, the mystics have been under our feet, hiding out for us to freaking get our shit together and get rid of these sketchies.
Mount Shasta.
Yeah, yes, they're talking a lot about the mountains. I think soon we're going to be able to see them. Like we're going to all be able to hang out together. I don't know. I have that feeling.
Yeah,
I would.
There's definitely they're trying to make that happen. So humanity's got to be ready for it.
I would agree with the both of you.
Yeah,
it was y'all. That conversation between Dr. Sala and this Romanian man was so beautiful. It was so well, like you could tell that he cared about what this man was saying, and the banter back and forth, like it was real. And it was right after Trump got elected, and then they were nominating Dr. Sala to be part of the Trump team, which I don't know what's going on with all that, but I don't know. I thought that was really interesting for that to be his first show after being nominated to be on the Trump political side.
I have heard that when we finally get like non-human intelligence disclosure, which you could argue we've already had that, but I don't know what it'll take, but I have heard that it's going to start with inner Earth beings rather than.
I've heard that too.
That would be really cool. I do also think too, this is something I think I've talked with all of you about here, minus Raquel. I just followed you over on X, so we can talk about it also now too. But
nice.
But I think, when this disclosure happens, whether it is for the real, entities or not, we know that, there's a narrative behind certain things, at least at this point in time, regardless or not, when it does happen, that is going to be a collective nudge into fourth density consciousness. I do think that is something that's kind of going to occur. It's going to be a little bit of a bump for our entire collective. I mean, right now they're doing I guess you could say I really like what David was saying, though. It's going to be more inner earth stuff and to first come out. I definitely think that would be amazing to see. But I do think that we're kind of teetering on this edge of this collective nudge at this time. And, it's gearing us up, at least in the collective sense, to be able to handle something like this. This is why I think it's been done in the way that it has, with this very slow drip feed. But even what you both were saying too, I mean, I've heard that theory as well before. The earth could be very well much bigger than we know it is at this point in time. And we could just be sitting on a single portion of it. And I mean, that kind of makes sense too, because I mean, you look at these stars in the sky right now. We have been seeing the same stars in the same location for like how
program.
long at this point?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like a program in the screen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it could definitely be that. I just wanted to say that though, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I just want to
Listen,
say as
I
well.
know nothing. I know nothing. That's my motto. I know nothing, so give me
Mine-
everything.
I just want to say as well, I think there's been a huge big shift, and I think as our collective consciousness is expanding, the ability to comprehend larger and larger topics is actually expanding as well. And I think we're actually reaching a point where the level of consciousness on the planet is allowing us to see deeper truths, basically. I think we've had to reach this point. And I think the same with COVID, we had to kind of go through that. I know me and Kirsten's spoken about this before in one of our spaces, but COVID really it was very, very layered. And for everything that's happened on the dark side, it's also had an equal input on the light side as well, because obviously reality, it's just a big long stick, isn't it? And the good and the bad is just the same, different side of the same stick. And it's just kind of how you view that and your perspective. But I think COVID was the catalyst for a lot of people to wake up, which you've covered as well. And I think we're kind of going through that again now, and it kind of goes in cycles.
Yeah.
And it's like the momentum's picking up now. And my guides kind of said to me, people are coming together in groups, and it's due to this shift now picking up the pace, and we're creating kind of like a dynamo effect in groups like this, especially. And it's all to do with the energies and the frequency and basically reprogramming reality.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent point.
I agree. That's beautiful.
Yeah, why emphasis us all coming together, because reprogramming reality is exactly what we can achieve here and what we can do with our own collective consciousness, our own I am God power. We get to set the narratives ourselves. And this is like what every human waking up to realize they are a controlling factor in setting their own narratives. And it starts with all kinds of silly stuff, like your personal boundaries, what you think, how open you are, how you speak to people, how you treat people. Like, it's all in these little humanistic ways, but it's how we expand and grow, become our own narrative. And then we get to even set the stage on what we want politically in our own mind structures, what we want the earth to look like in our own mind structures, when we want in earth to pop up in our own mind structures. And the more we like coalesce together, the more we come together and bring it about, the stronger of a chance it has, because that's what that 1% does in their evil robes, in their evil lair, sitting around Google gobbling. And how do they get to control us? What's so special about them? What's special about them is they know how it works, and they know how to come together, and they know how to set intentions. Any of the dark magic things they do are gross and will have dark karmic effects, and those only produce magic in the short term. Long term wise, they've really messed themselves up. The way we holistically do it together in thought processes, working together, trying to think of ways and things we can do and build together, like podcasts like you guys want to do, is a wonderful thing to start formulating that. And anything we can think of, grow, to do together. I mean, hopefully one day, not that we're the government of the future, because I hope it looks a completely different way, but we're definitely the voices of the future and of that decision-making progress. Because, and then it's just about waking up every individual to realize they can also do that. And then we just grow it and grow it and grow it. No matter how much they try to tweak the algorithms, we just keep going, and they can't stop us.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
they can.
That's beautiful.
Definitely.
That
I
was
mean,
so
well,
beautiful. I love that.
you know that we're what we're doing is insanely powerful, and I've said this multiple times. We might feel that something like this is small, but in all reality, this is very massive. we're laying down a foundation. We're laying down a very hard foundation of a new way of being, a new way of life. Okay. You know, a new frequency, the new earth frequency itself. You know, I feel like a lot of us incarnated here at this time to be the builders of this foundation. And you know, based on what Diana was saying, you know, it's yes, it's almost as if like even us in small groups, you know, just have such a profound impact on the human collective consciousness that they have to almost, I've noticed this too, and like I would never be the one to say like, you know, what I did was the reason why Trump did what he did, but I saw it to be so weird because I had the show Common Ground back a few weeks ago. I had somebody from the right and the left sit down, have civil discourse, you know, civil conversation, and they walked away with a little bit of like respect for each other. And, you know, just to showcase that this can happen, like it's not me versus you, you know, in the essence, it's us versus them, the parasite class. This is what we need to realize. And 2 days later, Trump made that order where it's literally 2 days on the dot after I did the show. Trump made the order where he decided to ban the observances of Black History Month, ban the observances of Women History Month, and Gay Pride Month. And I was sitting there and I'm looking at that. I'm like, man, I just did the show and now this happens. It's like, what the hell, dude? And it's like, of course I would never think just little old me, but it's like when even just based on what Diana was saying, come to think of it, man, it's like, what if we are just that
No,
that
we
you know
are.
strong
No.
and we don't realize?
Yeah, let me tell you a story. Yeah, I
We're
have a
doing
friend.
We
Yeah. So
Yeah.
back in the summer, I experienced an experience where like I was brought to different dimensions and realms, and I experienced things in my higher form, and in kind of like the end of that, I was in the ninth dimension. There were other light workers there with me, and we had to battle this entity. It was a fallen Arcturian, and we battled him and defeated him. And then like that whole timeline started to unravel, and for the next week or so, I experienced like a lot of like really weird time anomalies and Mandela effects and stuff. And so I talked to um, my friend Sandra. She's like my spiritual advisor, and about this. This was months later. We talked about it, and she said that that event, like it did, the things that we do were more powerful than we realized, and it did affect the timeline. And she said, because this happened right around the same time as when that guy shot at Trump, and she said that because that happened, and it wasn't just me, it was, you know, other people were doing things at that time too. There was like a big battle in the astral plane that night, from what I understand. And because of that, like Trump was going to be shot on that timeline, and we changed it, and it was supposed to be like a recycling of the same time loop where Kennedy was shot, and we changed the timeline. So maybe what you did, Stephen, did have that effect.
Dude, I wouldn't be surprised, man, because to me, that's the biggest weakness of this system at this point in time, you know, and that's why I've really just kind of coined the phrase, we're not going to win this with pitchforks and torches. It's not going down that way. The way we're going to overcome this is overriding the conditioning that this matrix system has placed on us. And one of the biggest forms of conditioning this system has placed on us is that collective Hegelian dialectic, the me versus you. And you know, even when I did Common Ground, you know, one of the biggest things that came up is number one, you know, a lot of us, no matter if we have these petty, minute differences in ideology, you know, petty, minute differences in philosophical ideals, we all ultimately want the same things, you know. We all ultimately want, you know, our freedom, our sovereignty, you know, the ability to lead our lives the way that we want to. And the other thing too that kind of really solidified everything as well was, a lot of these issues that the right and the left argue over about, they're not black and white. They're very gray. And that even got brought to the surface, that there's a lot of these instances that, that we really, we can't claim to, have our skin in the game if we're not technically there, and we have to understand that there's a lot of gray areas. And like, that's why I even said in the chat, like, a lot of these answers that we look for, a lot of these remembrances, very rarely do they sway in either extreme of the polarity spectrum. They're not always absolutely this or absolutely that. We kind of see that they always tend to sit in the middle somewhere. There's always some kind of middle ground. There's always that balance that cultivates in a lot of these concepts and a lot of these ideas. So very, very well, David, it could have been. And if that's the case, then I'm very honored that I had to push Trump to do some more division, because it worked that well. But yeah, no, man, I do. And that's phenomenal, man. Like I can't wait to have you back on Wednesday to talk more about your experiences, bro. It's
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man.
But what you said there about how the solutions to most problems, they're not on the extremes, right? It's balance, right? And who was the greatest? Well, one of the greatest teachers that ever lived, right? The Buddha, and that was like his first sermon, right?
Yes.
Finding the middle path.
It's the common sense. That's why they keep using the word common sense, y'all. Like, it really is. The truth is very simple. Like, less is more. Like,
It's
common
true.
sense.
Well, and as a former communication professor, that's one of the basic fallacies in reasoning, either or. It has to be either this or that, because we know there's actually the center is where the truth is. And when you look at
0 point.
Hermetic philosophy, it's the same thing. When you talk about polarity, we have hot, we have cold. Which is the truth, hot or cold? Well, obviously, it's the center. It's the center that's the truth. That's the full truth. Hot may be partly true. Cold is partly true. But the center is where the actual truth lies. So
It's very biblical. It's very biblical, too, because, like, in the Bible, it says, oh, you're either hot or cold. But if you're lukewarm, I will spit you out. Well, you want to be spat out of the game. You want to master, and you want to be in the middle and be spat out. You don't want Yahweh to eat you back up and reincarnate here. You want to get out of the dome, free from the dome, freedom.
I love
Right?
She's got the etymology down real good on that. No, yeah, for sure.
I mean, it makes so much sense. It's like common sense when you start thinking about it. You're like, oh, yeah, we do need to restore common sense. Come on, guys.
It is. Well, it's like we see it even in our lives, like, and that's one of the biggest things, and that's why I've always been a proponent for, like, everything ultimately services our evolution. Everything ultimately services creation as a whole. Everything is ultimately part of the all, the one. And that's why, like, I was bringing up on a show actually last Wednesday. We talk about in the Gnostic version of things. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things about Gnosticism I love and that resonate with me. But calling the physical realm inherently evil, and
Right.
and I'm like, okay, I'm like, look, like, yes, like Yaldabaoth Yahweh, whoever who they want to refer him to. Yes, he did craft the physical realm, but when we really dive down to it, where did Yaldabaoth come from? Sophia, who came from the all. So everything in essence is part of the all, and I think really that's what I'm getting at here. Even though something might sway in the balance of the dark, or something might sway in the balance of the light, everything ultimately services this creation or evolution. And one of the things I talk with a lot of people about is how many times in your life have you had a really bad thing happen to you, but it's had an amazing silver lining. There was a huge silver lining under all of it that you're like, holy crap, I'm grateful this bad thing just happened to me, because now
All the time.
it is open the door. And then you have a good thing happen to you that has a really massive caveat. Like, there's a good thing that occurs in your life, but there's this caveat to it. Like, yes, it's good, but you know what I mean? Like we say that, but no, that's essentially how it is, and I think honestly, that's where we're getting to the point at where you were saying with like common sense, you know, it's all about holding that balance. It's all about holding that middle path. It's about, you know, having that non-attachment, but understanding its purpose at the same time and where it's meant to guide you in this existence as far as your growth and your evolution.
Well, and you know, something that I have kind of trying to adopt this idea of non-attachment, right? Because as humans, like part of the human experience is attachment. That is part of the human experience. So I try to take the approach that attachment isn't necessarily bad in and of itself, but you should be aware of it. Like if you become attached to something, just make sure you know that you're attached to something and there could be consequences to that. And then as long as you adopt that mindset, it's a little bit safer, I guess. So far.
It's true. It's true. There's a level of darkness that comes with being human, I think.
Diana, real quick, I don't want to interrupt you. Your mic's kind of cracking up. It was a little bit ago. I just want to let you know so we can hear you clearly. Sorry about that.
Okay. Let me try going to phone. Is that better?
Little bit better.
Say something else.
Try again.
Is that better?
Oh, when you said hi again, that was better.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Say it was better, but not all the way better.
Oh, that's because my internet is very bad.
Oh, okay.
No worries. I just
messing with the feed.
I just wanted to make sure we all heard you. That's all.
No, it's okay. It's all you guys are cracking when I'm listening too, so I'm not surprised.
Dang.
But I was just saying, if you can understand me, that there's a certain level of darkness with being human because of the denseness required in being physical. So it's like a byproduct of our physicalness, and the more we ascend into an etheric realm of being, the less we'll actually need darkness, period.
Yeah, I agree with that. It kind of evaporates. Like, I kind of think that we don't have to go through so much bad stuff being exposed because it's kind of going to go away. Like, when you stop thinking about these sketches, they kind of just disappear from your reality.
Yes.
I kind of think that's what they want us to do. Like whatever benevolent help that's here, that's not us. They know that we're that powerful that if we just all collectively stop thinking about them and giving our power, they just kind of cease to exist. And we don't have to go through watching tribunals and really horrible, traumatic things. Because the trauma that we have been going through is so bad here. Our nervous systems need so much healing. Like, we all need so much. Like, I want to retire for 1,000 years after this mission. Please. Like, can I go to my whatever planet where I'm just
What's that book they came out with in the meme? It's like how to not reincarnate on Earth again. OMFG. I cannot. Or
oh God.
Like that.
Well, that's what's happening. Like the Phoenix, like we all are here for it. Like we get a chance to not recycle here. Like this time is coming. Cool.
Do you think we are recycling though? That's the question, because I've really had to sit with this, and I feel like there's an organic earth underneath like this overlay. It's almost like it's a fake overlay, but there's actually an organic template underneath, and I feel like it's just we're living in our awareness is kind of in a distortion, and actually it's really beautiful underneath. We just need to see through the distortion, you know. And the more work I've done, and the more we're kind of moving along. It's almost like reality starting to peel away. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Like I'm seeing quite a lot of like it's made of like plasma almost. I see it.
I see it.
Yeah.
I see the sparkles because I sun gaze a lot, and I can see the sparkles, the pixels, the twinkles that make up our reality, the 0 point energy, you know. And I think you're right. It's nature. Nature is the true reality. Like just that tree right there. Like how beautiful that tree is. You know, that's a portal.
It's the mother. I mean, I do a little goddess work, and I've got a really like deep connection to the goddess. And I really feel her, you know, I feel her in everything that we do. And the more I kind of go along on my journey, the more I feel really blessed to be here. And I don't feel like I'm stuck in a loop. I feel like what I'm actually doing is finding a gratitude for it, you know?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that you said
Well,
that.
yeah, this really is supposed to be a good place. This is supposed to be a place that you want to go. Like, really,
Eden.
it was meant to be a good experience. And you know, the goal is to make it that way again, so that people don't want to just leave. Because
Well,
We're in the garden.
yeah, well, the purpose of Earth is to create a physical avatar so that God can incarnate his or her divine spark and experience the 3D realm, and then and evolve into something even greater. And that's the goal. So and yes, things happened. Like, the world was hijacked by you know, beings that wanted to do their own thing, and
Like a parasite.
yeah. And
Yes, so it is.
that wasn't maybe necessarily part of the plan, but the great thing is, like, any amount of darkness can be transmuted, and in the end it's going to make us stronger, and yes, it'll make this place better. And we are very close to something flipping. Well, I think, I mean, honestly, I really think it's mostly a matter of it's got to be done slowly for the normies. I think most of the major changes have already happened that need to happen.
I feel like everything that's already kind of happened has been, like you said, it's been solidified. We're now just watching it play out. We've already gone on whatever timeline we're going to go on. We've already made that decision. Our souls have made that decision. And we're just now going through the process of seeing it kind of manifest, really.
Yeah. This is like the hardest part for me, y'all. Like, I feel like this whole, like, waiting and watching, like, this year has been so hard for me. I don't know why. Like, I feel like I should have more peace with it. But I'm kind of like, oh my God, I have to play so small still. And that's really hard because everybody's now saying stuff and you're like, yeah, just gotta let them go through it. And I try not to say
That's
much.
the hard bit, though, isn't it? Yeah, it's the hard bit. And you look at that, your family, like my family are all going through a massive awakening at the moment. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this.
They are.
I went to my dad and he was just like, oh, the nature of reality, and is God even real? And I didn't believe in God before, and I want a sign and all this stuff. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this is my dad. This is my crazy dad. Do you know what I mean? And he's literally having some sort of like existential crisis. It's happening. It really is happening, guys. We're winning.
It really is.
We really are. We really are. And you know, I'm still a profound believer that we have already won this. We have, you know, and it's so crazy because when you look at how, you know, how spirit, the divine works, and I mean, ultimately we're looking at, like, you know, kind of what you guys were saying here, like there's always been an equivalent balance in these events. You guys were talking about COVID, on how there was just as much dark, you know, that occurred as light. And really what we can see is we see almost this reverberation effect. The one thing I've always said that I've noticed is I'm seeing the divine kind of manifest back into this existence in very interesting ways. And, you know, one of the biggest things I talk about is we have the conscious aspect of the awakening, and then we have the subconscious aspect. And, you know, what the conscious aspect of it would be people like us. You know, we're like the energetic light posts that are grounding the higher frequencies into this realm and kind of transmuting all of this dark stuff that's going on. And we would be kind of the conscious aspect of this awakening. But the subconscious is, you know, a lot of the other people, the collective, the normies, whoever we want to call them, they're feeding off our energy too. I can't tell you how many people I see getting into meditation, getting into yoga, getting into like homesteading, getting into like these different, getting into tarot cards, getting into reading. Like I see it like starting to manifest itself even in the general public also. And so to me, like it's kind of interesting. It's beautiful to me. I love seeing that. that, because it's like, even though that these people might not have, you know, the entire picture in their head or the entire bigger picture in their mind of everything that we're undergoing or what we're going through, our work that we're doing here, it's showcasing itself, and
Yeah.
it's showcasing itself on how it's manifesting into this collective energy. We have people like, I can't tell you, you know, even as something as simple as the sourdough craze, right? Like, you know, my wife likes to make sourdough, you know, and I love the sourdough. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's delicious, but you know, something as simple as that, because, you know, we look at, you know, if we look at a lot of the blue zones, you know, in these areas of the world where people live these extremely long lives, like, you know, upwards of 100 plus years, sourdough is a component of that also. So it's kind of funny how, like, you know, one of the biggest things I've always said, and I remember I said it on my show with Diana too, is like, we're like the white blood cells for the planet right now. We are like the white blood cells kind of coming in and like kind of helping correct and transmute all of the darkness that's going on. And the fact that even something as simple as the sourdough craze, because sourdough is good for you, and but the probiotics, it helps with your health. It's kind of combating the medical industrial complex at the same time. So it's
good.
interesting on how like this is all kind of starting to manifest now. It's all kind of starting to break through in these very like interesting, like minute, subtle, and intricate ways, like, you know, and that's just something I kind of point out to a lot of people. Like, you know, they're like, when it's like, because, you know, I know we all have those moments where it's like, I joke, it's ascension symptoms, like Sunday, mini dark night of the soul. Monday, I'm on fire. Tuesday, fuck it, let's burn it all down. Freaking Wednesday, it's like emotionally wrecked. Thursday, burn it all down again.
Yeah.
And then it's like
all over the place. It's just emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is. It is.
Can I
It's
just
like,
say,
you know,
what you've said, Stephen, is sourdough is essentially a gateway drug for awakening. That's what you're telling us, isn't it?
it's kind of it's part of it. It's part of it. But it's funny how, like, you know, we all have these moments of like, you know, like each and every one of us, we're like, yeah, I just want the table to flip now. I want it to flip now. And we get like these like frustration moments where it's like, you know, like, show me the table. Where's it at? I'll go flip it myself. And it's like, we have these moments, but like, then we, you know, we also have this moment like right now where we got to like take a step back and we're like, okay, it's manifesting. It's coming. Like, you know, we can see it starting off in its like smallest aspect, its most subtle aspect. But as time goes on, I'm sure we're going to see it in larger ones. But real quick, guys, I do got to hop off of here for the day. I wanted to just kind of get that off real quick. Diana, thank you so much for holding this. This was awesome.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this. Yeah.
The energy is it like really helped me kind of regulate. Like, thank y'all.
Yeah.
And
totally.
And I've interacted with a bunch of you on X for a while, so it's nice to be able to put a face with that.
I'll follow y'all. I'll find all y'all. And the
next time,
do it. Diana,
Raquel's the only one I'm not following, so I followed you, but
okay.
But other than that, guys, I'm happy I got to sit down with all of you today. It was good to finally talk to you in person, Sam. Like, finally, like, you know, like, for sure. And other than that, guys, you all enjoy your weekend. I'm gonna look forward to doing this again with you all. Diana, just let me know when. I will make some time. And David, I will see you this Wednesday, my friend. You guys have a good one.
Right.
Okay.
Sounds good, sir.
See you later, guys.
See you guys.
Later.
Bye.
Later.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana. That was so fun.
It really was.
I'm gonna get off as well, but I enjoyed it. Let's do it again. Soon.
Yeah, definitely. Lovely to meet you all. I'm gonna go. I've actually got flu today. You can't probably tell, but I've been dying of today, death all day. Yeah, I didn't know if I was gonna make it.
We'll send some healing to you.
Thank you. See you later, guys. Take care.
Yes, thank you everybody for being here.
Bye.
This was absolutely fantastic.
That was so fun. Thank you.
It really was. Thank you so much, Diana. And it was so nice to meet you, Raquel.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me. And I will, put myself together next time. I didn't really know what to expect, so this was so fun. Thank y'all.
No, it was beautiful.
Yeah, and I'll talk to y'all on Messenger.
Yes, fantastic.
Thanks,
much love to everybody, and thank you for our audience for tuning in. to our Collective Conscious Creators panel. And we'll see you next time. We'll do this in another week or two. We'll talk in our group and we'll let you know. Have a great
Bye, guys. Bye.